Good morning, comrade. You are listening to 102.3 WHIVLP New Orleans. You can check us out online at whivfm.org/listen. You can also check out our website, goodmorningcomrade.com. You can, so anyway, good morning, comrades. That's what the show is. We talk about working people, working stuff, working on the job, and why work sucks. So, why does work suck for you right now, Scott?
Work does not suck. I'm on the record. Work is fine.
Whoa. Okay, work is fine. Workers are good. Bosses?
I don't know. I'm doing alright right now. I'm trying to rock the apple cart.
Oh, come on.
Brother,
Jesus.
come
on!
Oh, come on. I was notably unemployed for a long time, so as part of my own mental health, I have to
you have to be happy for a little bit.
Isn't bad.
Yeah. That'll last. Anyway, so, yeah. So, you're working, I'm working, everybody's working these days, and nobody's got money.
Brother, ain't it the truth?
Ain't it the truth? So, guess what? I did.
What did you do?
This past week.
What did you do?
I went out, a couple friends, comrades, Michael, who's with DSA New Orleans, also Sophie, guy Jason, and a new friend, Rob. We went out to a General Motors workers picket out in Brandon, Mississippi. It was really cool.
It's a pretty good ways away, huh?
So first off, it's about 3 hours away. We kind of got in the car about 10 in the morning. We got up there about 2. But for folks that don't know, and I don't know how you wouldn't know about it at this point, General Motors workers have been on strike for the past pretty much a month at this point. There have been breakdowns in contract negotiations between the United Auto Workers and General Motors. There's a lot of concerns from the workers about things like workers not getting paid equally, especially since the auto bailout that happened in 2008 after the financial crash. The General Motors pretty much got bailed out by the U.S. government, and since then they were basically able to come back. They were able to maintain their privately held status, even though tax money is what tax money bailed out the bank. Not the banks, but they got bailed out too. But bailed out the auto manufacturers, and
yeah, man. I remember Clint Eastwood was talking about Detroit being back, brother.
But he did, didn't he? You remember that commercial?
Yeah, Super Bowl commercial.
Yeah, and I think when that was happening, they were basically just implementing things like emergency managers in the Detroit that would just emergency managers are people that just completely override local elected officials. They essentially run the city on a basis, and they're emergency basis, and they're pretty much appointed by the governor, who was a guy named
Blagojevich?
No, that was Rick Snyder, and Michigan, and those kinds of things also. So basically, those kinds of things are also what led to the decisions that essentially changed. There were decisions that made when it came to the city's water that led to the Flint water crisis. So they basically went from one body of water, which was one of the lakes, to the Detroit River, which had a higher acid content, which went through a lot of the pipes.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was bad times in Michigan, and There are a lot. There's a Flint. There's several Flints in every state in Louisiana, but Flint is the biggest Flint that there is, I suppose. I'm sorry, every state in the country, not just Louisiana, but there is a couple of Flints here. There's a couple of
Yeah, water
red,
insolvency is a
lead,
thing. Like,
discolored water. There actually was a place in Uptown. It wasn't lead in the water, but they had a pipe burst and they had been on a boil order for the past 2 days.
120-year-old pipe main busted, and it's just
big pipe main. It was like 48 inches wide.
One of the many civic problems in New Orleans right now.
Yeah. So anyway, going back to GM, General Motors, they were they essentially allowed to hire workers at lower wages and close different facilities that needed to be updated or whatever. They would just move it to places that would save on costs, and essentially it just led to a lot of really serious inequities amongst workers, and it led to very, very precarious positions for workers. And in September of 2019, the General Motors workers decided that when their contract was up, we're going to fight for a new one, and if we don't get it, that would essentially restore equality amongst workers, because you had workers that were doing the same job for vastly different wages. You would have one that was doing a job for about $15 an hour, and the one right next to him who had been there for longer, which is, I mean, they would be making about $40 an hour, which
basically they were doing short wage increases and bringing in new people for more money.
Right, and a lot of replacement workers and things like that were involved as well. Anyway, there's a lot to this story, and we went through a lot of it when we talked to the workers that were out there on strike. They were extremely warm. They were extremely nice to see. They were extremely happy to see some people from the local Democratic Socialists of America come in, and we talked and learned stories. And the folks there, they get it. They understand, because they see it every day. I mean, we all see it every day too. The fine, very sharp line between bosses and workers, and it was an awesome thing to do. If anybody has a chance to go run up there, go do so. I can put you in contact with some of the folks here. Just email us at contact@goodmorningcomrade.com, and we can hook you up with some folks. I know we have this show's coming out on Tuesday. We have, I think Sophie and Michael are going back on Wednesday.
Oh, nice.
And if anybody is interested in going up along with, give us hit us up at contact@goodmorningcomrade.com, or just you can message me on Twitter at @eminentprof, or we can figure something out that way. So let me know, and you can go up there, show some solidarity for the workers. Get rained on like we did. We got soaked. Yeah. I had to drive 3 hours back home. Oh my God, that day was so long, because we left in the morning, drove the 3 hours, through the rain in part. We got up there, we hung out in the rain for most of the day, which was, again, it was cool and totally worth it. It was dope to hang out with those folks, and they were super excellent. But we were sitting part of the parts facility that's out there is on a hill, and we were a little bit off the hill, as that was just where we were sitting, so we weren't quite on the top. And when the rain started coming down real hard, we were sitting on the street, and the rain just started running down into the gutter, which is where a lot of our feet and stuff were.
Yeah, Jeff, that's how hills work.
Yeah, water runs downhill. Gravity's a thing. But anyway,
I mean, I've only heard about piss running downhill.
Anyway, yeah, and then in addition to the, so it's been a very eventful couple of weeks. After we went to that strike yesterday, there was Saturday was the elections for the state of Louisiana. And
yikes,
folks, it's a hard time right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not the guy that thinks that electoral politics straight up and down the board will save us, but it's definitely a part of the recipe that we need to. We can't not engage in electoral politics. It's not a thing that would not behoove us very well to just say, oh, those elections over there, let's ignore them. right?
Oh yeah, I don't believe in gravity anymore.
Right. The most established way that people acquire and maintain power in the U.S. That's not actually something that we want to engage with.
Yeah, I'm not interested in it.
Not interested. I'm not playing that game. I'm just gonna come over here and play with my toys in the corner. Anyway, um, so the elections happened.
We had a few candidates in the race, right?
I mean, the focal point of the election for me was in two areas. One of them had a good outcome. The other had a absolutely horrible outcome. If you've been listening to the show for the past month or so, especially if you've been listening to the shows that we've been doing with on Mondays, we've been releasing some live shows, which you can listen to on whibfm.org/good-morning-comrade. We've been doing a lot of interviews with people running for state office. And the focus of most of those interviews were on two major things. One was the Secretary of Agriculture, or the Commissioner, I'm sorry, not Secretary. Margie corrected me on this on the air. The Commissioner of Agriculture for the state of Louisiana, whose job it is to essentially manage the resources for farming and like how that gets organized in the state of Louisiana, how food gets produced and gets shipped to people, what comes in, what goes through, what goes out. That is a job, something that our friend Marguerite Green ran for, and which is a statewide office. It's a huge campaign, and this is part of the good side of what happened in the election, in my opinion. So, Marguerite is somebody who is a member of the Democratic Socialists of America. She's a farmer. She was on our show. If you go back and listen to that episode, you can hear all about her. She did a really great and admirable job. But the thing that I take the most heart from, she didn't win. She got about 20% of the vote, but she got 259,000 votes in the state of Louisiana. Now, that's remarkable in the sense that this campaign started in April. So if you look at the timeline of this, that's 6 months. 6 months, but over 6 months, what happened with that campaign was not what typically happens in a Democratic Party campaign or whatever. She ran as a Democrat. She's I don't want to speak for like what her lifelong connections to that party are or whatever. It's not that important anyway. But as she ran, it was very clear that the Democratic Party was not there to support her in any way at all, like in any meaningful way. The statewide Democratic Party did a triple endorsement of 3 different Democrats, even though she was clearly the front runner. She, amongst the Democrats at least, she was able to put together through a network of largely Democratic Socialists of America, either chapters or organizing committees that exist throughout the state, in Louisiana. I'm sorry, in Baton Rouge, New Orleans, and Lafayette. And through that, she was able to essentially build a network from which to continue building. So, as of right now, there's a regional, I would call it, apparatus that is organized, that has a list of names, list of numbers, list of emails, all the contact stuff, donor lists, all the things that can essentially launch another campaign in the next year or whatever. So,
I mean, she ran against an incumbent.
She ran against an incumbent who had a $600,000 war chest. So essentially, the money that he had was just sitting on the entire time was over $600,000, which is a lot of money. Margie, on the other hand, ran her entire campaign for $40,000, less than 10% of what the winner was, and she beat every other Democrat that ran in that race, every other person that ran in that race.
8% of like what you have.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm not doing the math right now, but it's definitely less than 10%. And she was able to essentially. I mean, she didn't quite make a challenge to win. She didn't make the runoff or anything like that. But there was a real. I mean, there was a real.
Well, she got a fifth of the votes.
Yeah, sure. I'm not even looking at the percentage. The fact that you can get having no like structural like internal support from the Democratic Party, no money, only doing organizing, that and your ability to 250,000 votes as an out socialist in the state of Louisiana.
Yeah, it's pretty.
That is insane to me that happened, and that's like the very high point of what happened at the election this past week. Let me just pause real quick for station ID. You're listening to WHIV LP New Orleans 102.3. The show is Good Morning Comrade. Today in the studio we have Jeff and Scott. This is the home studio, Jeff's home studio.
Yeah,
Isn't it? He's sitting in a lazy boy right now because he's a very lazy boy.
This cat is walking across my lap every couple of minutes with his bell on, and it's really stressing me out. This cat is a real monster.
Yeah, we might have 2 cats soon, so congratulations.
Love it.
So anyway,
I'm allergic to cats, for the record.
You can't breathe if you're breathing. That heavy breathing that you hear in the mic is Scott failing to be able to breathe.
No, it's not me. I will start sneezing. That's what you know. I'll start sneezing a bunch, and I'll just leave because I can't.
Don't tempt me.
Yeah, yeah. Like I can't help but take it personally that you get cats because I'm allergic to cats.
You're taking the hint, aren't you?
I mean,
obviously not.
Yeah, obviously not. I gotta make you pay for it. I have to suffer this whole time and let you come out and be like, stop coming to my house.
I would never do that.
Yeah, I know. That's why you buy cats, to keep me away.
It's some Sun Tzu stuff right there.
Man, you're really trying to get the high ground on me.
Anyway, so we were talking a little bit about elections. We just talked a little bit about the good things that happened in the election last Saturday, which was that Marguerite Green, our friend, was able to acquire essentially 250,000 votes, 20% of the votes for agriculture commissioner in the state of Louisiana, with a shoestring budget campaign, $40,000 to run a statewide campaign. That's less than $1,000 a parish. I mean, there's 64 parishes in Louisiana.
Shoestring, that's like Velcro, buddy.
And in addition to that, we were able to sort of build and maintain a network that we can work with. We didn't officially work with the campaign. We know some folks that were out there. I did a little bit of canvassing, things like that. But it was and we had her come on the show. But other than that, I mean, there were folks out there that were doing real work, and it was really, really impressive. The fact that we were able to get, coordinate with no experience, by the way, multiple sites in the state for canvassing and phone banking and just getting out people to vote for Marguerite Green and her platform. It was really cool.
I mean, yeah, y'all did a lot of work. They had to do a lot of starting from the beginning, the ground floor, laying these roots down,
And that's the good side. Now the downside is right now after these elections, there were several people in specifically. Well, let's talk about the governor's race first. John Bell Edwards is he's a Democrat, and he is a very complicated Democrat because he runs a very conservative style.
Very purple state election.
No, he runs a red state Democrat. He is a red state Democrat, and he absolutely is. He got absolutely lambasted, correctly so, even on this program, for signing one of these anti-choice, female or people with uterus body autonomy bills that are designed to essentially criminalize women from practicing their right to not have to be forced to give birth, right? And this sort of thing went through the legislature back in late May, and that's unexcusable.
Yeah,
and it's something that really hurt him.
He really thought it was like this big deft move to like get the Republicans to like him or whatever,
which never was ever going to happen. Yeah. And we know it, and we knew it, and it's just what he wanted to do. He was doing what he wanted to do, and he just made an excuse for it. And so, anyway, that's one of the worst things that he's done. He's been, fairly.
I mean, he balanced the budget, and he thought that would be the thing that saves him.
Right. Nobody cares about the budget.
Republicans don't care if the budget is balanced. They're the one who ruined it. They just want chaos.
No, they want the money going towards oil and gas, and in a lot of senses, John Bell, despite the fact that he did roll back. Or he did at least localize some of the decision making for the industrial tax exemption program, which is a program that was largely state run that would give away local tax money. He also did do a Medicaid expansion that came along with the Affordable Care Act, which Bobby Jindal, his predecessor, refused to do, and that's a lot of what got the budget back in order too, is because with accepting the expansion of Medicaid came a lot of money that Bobby Jindal was like, no, we don't want that money, and it just and that was a contributing factor in crashing the state's finances, and then. Also, in addition to all of this, he has been at least not hostile to teachers and school workers.
Yeah, he's got that big line about his wife being a teacher.
Yeah, and he backed it up at least a little bit in the sense that his Bessie appointment, and this is going to start bringing us into some of the bad parts. The Bessie appointment, that's the state level school board, the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. The governor gets 3 appointees to that board, and the rest are elected. So when let's start with John Bell did not get. So the way that Louisiana does its primary elections is that if you get 50% plus 1 vote of the entire everybody in entire everybody that's running in a race, whether Republican, Democrat, no party, independent, whatever, they are all in the same sort of pot, right? They're all sort of thrown into one big vote for your favorite, whatever. And if anybody gets 50% plus 1 of those votes, then they win without having to, run another race. They don't have a general election in that way. Now, if nobody gets 50% of the vote, then they have what's called a runoff, which is where they would take the top 2 performers, no matter what they scored. You can have somebody who has 49%, and if the next person's got 10%, those 2 people will be taken out, and they would be put head to head in what's called a runoff, which is basically the general election. Well, there were 2 major guys who were running against John Bell. One was this pharmaceutical, guy, a veterinarian, fake doctor type, named Abraham. And then there was another guy who's was more of a he's a really rich dude. And he kind of ran on it. He got the Trump support, and he got a lot of. He was extremely aggressive in how he attacked John Bell for essentially not being draconian enough on immigration and white nationalism, basically.
Yeah.
So anyway, those were the three like major players, and it was expected going into the election that John Bel Edwards, the Democratic governor, would be able to kind of clear through all that stuff and not have to do a runoff. He would just be
Sail in.
he would just get through, and there you go. You survived. You get to go be the same. You do the same stuff for another 4 years, and it won't be that bad. Well, it didn't happen that way. Uh, Eddie Rispone was able to get. John Bell got, I think, about 48% of the vote. I have to go back and look. And in that, he basically was forced into a runoff, which is very dangerous because now they don't have anybody drawing, any other Republicans drawing votes away from the other one. So it's just head to head, Rispone versus John Bell, and that's a terrible situation because what the things that are at stake are the Medicaid expansion, the 3 seats on Bessie, and the industrial tax exemption program, amongst other things. It's not just that, but we're in that's a really tight spot to be in Louisiana right now.
Yeah, an already very poor state.
Yeah, and the other thing in Louisiana is that we just can't ever raise taxes or bring in revenue. Not even from extremely rich people, and John Bell's not done anything to do that. So anyway, that happened. And then in addition to the sort of runoff that was expected, there were a lot of, so the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education, which we mentioned earlier, the state level school board, which is the main policy driver of education policy in Louisiana, it ended up being a complete and utter bloodbath for people who were friendly to education. So let me, set it up a little bit. There are people who are mostly incumbents in the race, people like Kira Orange-Jones, people like Jim Garvey, people like, those are the two big ones, at least in this area. They are backed by the Louisiana, business, the community, Labby. Then they also get a lot of out-of-state money. There was about $300 million. I'm sorry, was it $300 million? Or? It was a lot of money. It was like at least hundreds of thousands of dollars, perhaps millions of dollars that were sort of spread out amongst all the races in Louisiana, specifically for Bessie. It was just stack the money, make your army, and go. And it worked, basically. So Louisiana has been, especially New Orleans, has been ground zero for school, quote-unquote, reform since Hurricane Katrina. So in New Orleans, and you've probably heard about, you're probably sick of us saying it, but you're sick of us saying it, but it's important to kind of not never forget. I'm not trying to make this like a 9/11 thing, but to keep in mind that the reason that people are spending so much money on education in Louisiana is because it's not because they love children or they love education. I mean, if they did that, they would become teachers, right?
I mean, they're not buying books.
Well, they are buying books, actually. But they're buying books that are part of, particular curriculum that are pretty much, disempowering teachers. Or that money is coming in from groups that support Teach for America, that actually is somebody Kira Orange-Jones, who ran and won in District 2, she is on the board of Teach for America. And she doesn't even live in the city or in the district where she lives. She lives in New York or California or somewhere like that. And but it doesn't really matter because they're able to blast out tons and tons of money to put out commercials, during high-profile events, football games, whatever. People see that and they vote for it. And the only way I was having a conversation about this earlier. The only way to combat that is not facing them on their own terms. That's actually impossible. They have unlimited money. We have no money or ever. The only way we ever have money is if we have small donations, like what goes towards the Bernie Sanders campaign or whatever, like $19 on average is what he's been receiving. It adds up, sure, like on a national level, especially, and that's what the Sanders campaign is, and over time. But in Louisiana, it's not as easy to aggregate that much money, and it can't compete. So the only way that you can combat that kind of a disadvantage is by having coordinated efforts with lots of volunteers. And unfortunately, we didn't have coordinated efforts or lots of volunteers going into this campaign. There were a lot of people that were walking around into certain circles, including this base, that were, very well-intentioned, very smart people who are capable of, who certainly know the issues and the topics and what the problems are. The solution, however, has to be an organizing solution. I don't see there being a way of getting through the any of this without there being a organizing first effort. And that's something that, as I mentioned earlier, the Green campaign, even though it lost, it was able to turn out a shockingly high number of votes. And that's the hopeful part. But the thing that didn't work out, unfortunately, was that the other candidates did not have that same effort, and you can see that by their underperformance anyway. You were listening to WHIVLP New Orleans 102.3. You were listening to Good Morning Comrade. I'm sounding a little sad right now, don't I?
Yeah, you're pretty bummed out, man. I'd let you talk yourself through that.
I had a very manic day yesterday. So we're recording on Monday, and the show goes out on Tuesday. Yesterday, I was sort of really, really feeling it. I was really all up in my feelings yesterday.
Yeah, that's what happens after any bad election.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It was.
You're game planning the whole time.
Oh, you were here part of the day, and were you listening to me? Were you watching me just game plan for the next one? Because I was
playing the Untitled Goose Game.
I must have called about a half dozen of my friends and be like, okay, this is what we have to do. This is how we do it. This is how we win. And it's just shut the hell up, Jeff.
Yeah, everybody, you need to decompress. You need to
well, that is decompressing for me.
You need to get a punching bag and just punch a bunch of it. I have a punching bag I can let you have if you want to hang it up.
I don't know where to put it. Can we put it in the studio?
No, of course not. There's a lot of delicate equipment here. You don't want to punch a big thing full of sand. Put it in the back.
What if I want to?
In the back.
We don't have a lot of room in this house.
No, in the back, under the outside.
What do we put in the back corner of this room?
Then it'll just hit the wall a bunch. That's not what you're supposed to do.
I don't know. I would like to punch stuff while I'm talking. That would be cool.
No, you punch, then you talk. Because anything you say when you're punching things is nothing.
No, that's what gives you the power when you're talking. Okay. When Goku says Kamehameha, that's when
it doesn't mean anything. That's just the thing he says when he's doing his fireball.
I've never seen him do it without saying it.
Yeah. Okay, but it's never anything important. That's not an important thing to say. That's just what he says.
You really, yeah.
Nothing you say when you're punching a punching bag is useful information. You're just relieving stress. It's all this nonsense.
You're breaking my heart over here.
No, you need to do that though. But you don't need to record it. Anyway.
But I want to.
Anyway, Speaking of bad things that happened in New Orleans, a building fell down.
Yeah. Oh. So yeah. Wow. That was yeah. So
yeah, like
as we were saying, Saturday was before even the election. The horrible, terrible election happened.
yeah.
And before the pipe burst uptown, which basically made it so that nobody knows if their water is going to kill them. What happened before it?
Oh, so basically there is a famous casino chain that I won't name on here for reasons, and they were building a pretty big building on Canal.
No, we need to drag Hard Rock Hotel. Like they won't get any clout from this. They get dragged through the mud here. It's not a plug. Everybody knows who they are.
I was gonna say it's on Canal and Rampart, but
yeah,
but like basically a building fell and a crane fell and 2 people were murdered and a lot of people were injured.
Yeah,
and it's messing up the city. Like a lot of like there's a big cordon area where you can't even drive by,
right?
Which is by 2 major streets.
So there was a Hard Rock Hotel that was being built downtown on Rampart by Canal Street. Canal Street, for those of you who are not here, is like
cuts the city in half.
Yeah, it's like the Times Square of New Orleans, if there's an equivalent to that. It's the least cool part of New Orleans. It's like the lamest street, right?
It's like where all the old stores used to be.
Well, it's like the big shops with all the lights and all the stuff that
it looks cool, and you walk down there, and there's like a lot of immigration and commerce and stuff.
I hate it.
Like it's where all like the big hotels are, and it's just kind of Main Street.
Yeah.
A lot of people think Bourbon Street is like Main Street.
No, that's just the part where people go and get drunk and piss on the street. That's what Bourbon Street
Canal
is.
Street is like the big street.
Yeah.
And it cuts the city in half, and it's where all the commerce is. Used to be at the end, back in the day, there was a World Trade Center at the end of it, but now there's just a casino.
The World Trade Center is still there. It's not being utilized.
I think it's going to become a hotel. They're renovating it.
I had heard, and I'm probably behind on this.
Yeah.
I had heard they were going to make it low-income housing.
Buddy, let me disabuse you of that notion. You think they're going to give a bunch of like people that are in low-income housing like view over the Mississippi River? Like, I'm not saying that's something that shouldn't happen, but like,
it's not going. I know it's not going to happen. I know it's not going to happen, but I do remember there being some rumblings about that.
Buddy, that was just rumblings.
Should have rumbled louder. Well, anyway,
I mean,
on Canal Street, by
Canal Street and Rampart, across the street from the Sanger Theater.
How far away do you work from there?
Oh, brother, I went into work literally the day it happened. I had to text my boss and be like, "Are we open?" Because we're like 5 blocks away, and like they were like, "No, it's fine, we're open." And like, I was taking a smoke break going outside, and literally on the street, look down the street, you could see the building all in shambles. Like, the building didn't
Did
fall.
you hear it?
I wasn't there.
Oh, okay.
But, like, it happened in the morning.
Yeah.
And I went to work at, like, 7 o'clock.
Okay, you
But,
went at night.
when I'm at work, I'm just, like, smoking a cigarette. You're not thinking about it, because you only think about these things.
You've been thinking about making the pies.
You only think about these things as being on the news. And, like, I was smoking a cigarette, and I take a look to the left, and you just see the building, like,
right.
all jacked up.
Now, you mentioned that 2 workers were murdered. Now, let's talk about why they were murdered and not they weren't killed in an accident.
Well, there was obviously, this was not an unforeseen problem.
No, it was not an unforeseen problem. This is why this is
such a travesty.
Yeah. So there were actually canvases. There were reports initially by the workers saying to the contractors that this is not a safe situation. This building can't stand. And this is something that's, endangering everybody here. And I'm not exactly sure what the response directly from management was. I imagine it was, we'll take that under advisement. And it's basically the managerial equivalent of putting your fingers in your ears.
Yeah.
And, they knew that the workers who were doing this work,
Yeah.
that are in it every single day, and who face the consequences no matter what from what's going on there, they said, and they were canvassing about it. Like I said before, they were passing out flyers saying
They had a big old
to publicly that this is not a safe environment. This is not a safe building. The structure is not sound.
I saw a picture of a big blow up rat with like
The fat cat,
a cigar, and like
the fat cat, yeah, the fat cat, and that's exactly right. And so,
I mean, my idea of what might have happened was all these workers were like, "It's not safe," so they probably asked some manager whose like job is dependent on production if things were safe, and he's like, "Yeah,
oh yeah, it's safe. Oh, it's safe." But
if it's not, he would be admitting that he's not like running on schedule.
Right, and that's what really matters. So essentially, the decisions that were made against the advice of the workers who know what the hell is going on,
People at the lowest level,
the people at the closest level,
yeah,
even, they said, this is a problem. People are going to die. They ignored it.
yeah.
That is negligence, and in my view, that's murder. You just killed these people because when that building collapsed, and when those 2 people were crushed, and when those 18 or so other people were injured, you are responsible for that.
There was actually kind of a lot of a false equivalency because the one person they knew was dead, and then later they were like, "Oh, another person is dead," and I was like, "Oh," I asked somebody. I said, "Oh, did they like succumb to their wounds at the hospital?" And they're like, "Oh no, they just couldn't legally declare them dead until they found them, which they couldn't do until later. It was unstable."
Oh, yeah.
And like, it's crazy. Like, I drive the city all the time, and the building is still unstable. You can't drive by there.
You can't drive down Rampart Street right now.
Yeah, you can't drive down Rampart. You can't drive down Canal Street. 2 of the biggest streets in the city. Like, that is literally the corner of the French Quarter. Like, the biggest
So Canal Street's where the French Quarter ends.
Yeah, and so is Rampart.
Yeah, that is true. It's the corner. It's the corner of It's the corner of the French Quarter.
Like, it's probably the bottom corner, the load-bearing corner. Because when you go towards Chalmette and all that, that's like kind of
that's where the small houses are all at.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But like this is the heart of the city.
Yeah.
Like, this is like
They canceled a couple of performances because it's right by the Sanger. They canceled the last couple nights of Wicked, which is a play.
Wicked.
Rip Wicked.
But New Orleans. Buildings shouldn't just fall down.
Nah,
Like, you know how many buildings there are in New Orleans?
if any of them, and again, it's the capitalist mania with cutting costs and increasing efficiency and keeping your timetable straight. And the Hard Rock Hotel's already been a quagmire. They've been rebuilding this thing since shortly after Katrina.
It's been going on so long.
Yeah.
Like, they probably moved it all around the city, but like, this location was a nightmare too. Like, I think the old family wanted to build a bunch of housing on it or something, or condos. Because if you're not building a casino, you're building condos.
Right.
Or a hotel.
Stuff that'll make money. That's stuff that like actually helps the people that live here.
Yeah, we want to bring these people in so they can go on Bourbon Street.
And also, we want to make Bourbon Street into a mall.
Yeah, and the people that are here want to like rent a place, but only for a month. Like, they want to live.
Oh my God, you remember that already? We were at a bar.
Yeah.
The other night.
I forgot you were there.
Yeah, we were hanging out at our bar. We were going to meet.
This is at the end of the quarter, like.
So, our bar is on. It's on Royal Street, right by. It's a couple blocks from Esplanade, which is like where the quarter sort of begins. It's before the quarter.
Esplanade is kind of one of the. It's the other.
That's the other limit of the quarter.
Limit of the quarter.
And and then the other limit's the river.
Yeah.
So yeah. Sorry, New Orleanians. Yeah. Anyway, they already know this.
Anyway,
we were at our bar, which is a couple blocks down, and we're hanging out with this guy.
Yeah.
Really cool dude. What was his name? Brian with a Y.
Yeah, Brian with a Y, one of the good ones.
Yeah, Brian's with an I. What are you doing
bad.
with your life?
Brian with a Y are cool.
I don't know any bad Brians with a Y.
Yeah.
Do you?
I don't know. No. I knew a guy named Brian who was my middle school friend, and we stopped talking. And then he became a guy in Florida who would just like do a bunch of like extremely far left like
He became a Florida man?
No, extremely far left like protesting and stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, but was it like productive stuff?
Oh, probably not. But
so he's just spinning his wheels, but feeling good about himself?
I mean, he died. So.
What?
Yeah. I'll tell you his name off air.
Drop an F for that Brian guy.
Yeah. I'll tell you his name off air, but you might remember him.
FBI probably did it.
Maybe, yeah.
Anyway, you were listening.
Him.
You're listening to WHIV LP New Orleans 102.3. You're listening to Good Morning Comrade. We got Jeff and Scott, the Barrel Wild Brothers.
WHIV Studio 3.
This is the best of all the studios.
Yeah.
Yes, me. It's only one with a lazy boy.
Studio 3 is wherever we're recording. That's not Studio A or Studio B.
So anyway, we were talking about the people who wanted to.
We were hanging out outside of our bar and
hang out with this dude Brian, who's by the way a landscaper in the city, which is actually a pretty dope job.
Yeah, I kind of wish we got his information. He seemed a cool guy. But anyway, we're hanging out, literally sitting on 3 stools outside of a bar, and these people are
hanging around.
And these 2 people are coming by. Like, you can tell they're tourists. Like, they've got their canvas shoes on, and they've got their jeans, and their belts are pulled up really tight. And
they have flowery button-down shirts.
No, their button-down shirts are tucked into their jeans.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, we're looking for a place to move in around here."
But only for a month.
Yeah, but we only want to live here for a month. We just want to get the experience. You know, we want to live, and we want to be able to say we lived in New Orleans.
Short-term gentrifiers, I call them.
Yeah, like these are the people they make the short-term rentals for.
Yeah,
they just want to. They don't want to drop a deposit. They just want to open their front door,
live here until live here
until it in 2 weeks, and like bear it for the rest of their time.
They would never go through the dog days of August. Yeah. They would never do it. They're too chicken.
So I have a friend that used to live in the quarter, and they lived in kind of a courtyard, right? And across the courtyard there was this one apartment, and every month or so someone would move in and they'd be like, "Oh, we love the city." And they talk to them like once or twice.
And Rampart, wait, no, not Rampart, on Toulouse, right off of Bourbon Street. Like this is like party ground zero.
Like if Canal and Rampart is the heart of the city, this is like the center of ventricle.
The heart of the heart, yeah.
This is the ventricle of the city. Like this is about as Bourbon Street as you can get.
This is definitely the heart of where tourists go.
It's like 2 blocks away where Bourbon gets gay, which is also the real heart of the city.
the very gay heart of the city.
Yeah, the very gay heart of the city. But like, this is it. And like, people would just be like, for a week they'd be friendly, and after that they'd like get all sullen and like stop talking to the neighbors and just like literally disappear like a thief in the night. And
good riddance, me.
And nobody lives in the city anymore. Like, people just only stay here temporarily, and they live in the Airbnb.
No, those people only stay here temporarily. People who are here for real,
yeah,
like are here for real. But they don't usually jump in like that deep.
But there's so much property in like the quarter that people don't even live in. There's so many for sale signs.
Yeah, because nobody can afford it unless you're doing it for a month.
Yeah, because it's been speculated so high. Like,
that's exactly right.
The people that used to own it and are like Airbnb it out while like looking to sell it to somebody higher, they can't do it. They can't do the Airbnb anymore, so they're just trying to sell it. So nobody lives here.
Right. That's gentrification right there.
Yeah, it's the worst. Like, you don't have the characters. Like, I mean, you do have the characters.
No, we will always have characters.
But, like...
You'll never kill the characters.
There's no people that live there anymore, you know? New Orleans. Huh.
No.
Yeah.
So anyway, those people suck.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's a real problem, but
what else is going on in the city?
I mean, we've gone over a lot of it.
I mean, yeah.
Boiling water filled uptown.
Yeah.
They
just, if you're listening to this, you missed the mac and cheese festival that they had at Armstrong Park.
You know, Jason, who lives actually in Long Beach, Mississippi. He came up with us to the Picket to bring this back full circle. He came to that on Saturday, and then he met me, and then he met us at the Marquis victory party. Which, it was pretty nice.
Did he say anything about it? Or, come on, what kind of macaroni?
I didn't get any dish on the mac and cheese thing. I was too busy talking about, I was too busy being, mad and, gutted the entire night to talk about mac and cheese.
Yeah, but Jeff, you had the whole first half of the show to talk about that. We're talking about this now. We're talking about macaroni and cheese.
No, I'm talking about what happened that night. I didn't talk about mac and cheese that night.
Oh.
I was too crushed.
Wow.
I was too sad to talk. I was too manic to talk about mac and cheese.
You know what would have made you feel
It was mannequin cheese.
You know what would have made you feel better? A nice warm bowl of M&C, brother. Get that good gold goodness in you.
Buddy, I don't need to know what I need right now. I don't need to know this.
Brother.
I don't.
Yeah, you don't need to know it. I'll tell you. You need some mac and cheese, baby. Make you some Blue Box or just get the good stuff. You make mac and cheese, right?
No, it's Blue Box. Get out of here with that.
You don't make baked mac?
No, get out of here with the Blue Box. I'm talking about. You need to get the long macaronis.
Yeah.
The one with the long macaronis. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
Okay? You burl them. Cook them down, drain them. Just like you usually do. That's how you do it. You just make the macaroni like regular.
Make pasta, man.
Put it in a pot.
Yeah.
Get you your cheese. It can be...
What kind of cheese?
I usually do sharp. The sharpest cheddar I can find.
So if you cut your finger on it, you know it's good?
If I'm not bleeding into it, you can't taste it.
Yeah. Not true. Anyone listen. But,
please eat my bloody macaroni and cheese.
There's no blood.
Anyway, you get the sharpest cheddar you can find. You put a little bit of milk in there. I don't typically like milk.
Wow.
I put a little tiny bit in there.
Rough. I'm a milker. Brother, I have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich every night. Big glass of milk.
And then a little salt. A little pepper. Then cheese on top. Cheese all through. Mix it. More cheese on top. Slide her in.
Alright. Send us an email at contact
at goodmorningcomrade.com. You can tell me why my macaroni and cheese recipe is the best.
No, not that. You can come tell us whether you like milk or you don't like milk. Because there's actually a lot of contention on this podcast about whether or not milk is good.
Yeah, there's a right... it's contentious between right and wrong.
Anyway, I love milk. I drink it all the time.
Yeah.
Most delicious.
This is the wrong parade. Anyway, you have been listening to Good Morning Comrade. You can check us out every Tuesday at 8 a.m.
Wow.
You can also check us out on Thursdays most of the time. Actually, you don't hear Robert and Aaron here today.
Oh, yeah.
Because, as of Saturday, do you hear the bells?
Yeah. Oh, man. It's great.
They got married.
Congratulations.
They're out of town. Congratulations to Robert and Aaron.
They drove back.
They're back today. They're back already?
No, they drove
They went to Jersey. They got married in Jersey and then over the weekend. So shouts to them. That's why you're stuck with me and Scott.
Yeah, drop an F in the chat.
That's why
support marriage.
That's why. Right. That's why we let Scott come back. Yeah. Is really because we didn't have anybody else because they were out of town getting married.
You know what? They thought they were so hot, and then brother, they came begging back. They were like, "Oh, we can't just be listening to Jeff the whole episode." Then that makes him Rush Limbaugh.
Yeah. That'll go straight to his head.
Yeah.
So anyway, you can check us out every week, Tuesdays, most Thursdays, and we have a couple of interviews planned out. We've been doing Monday shows lately. Also, keep an eye out on November 4th. We are likely to be doing a combined show with Mark Allanderi on Resistance Radio.
Oh, yeah. I've been working with Mark every Monday.
Yeah.
When he does his live broadcast.
So we talked about that today. Maybe we can get that rolling as well. So if so, mark that on your calendar and come show out. Be a part of the raucous crowd that is a part of every one of those shows. So anyway, thank you for listening. Check out our website, goodmorningcomrade.com. Love you. Bye.